Welcome back to another edition of Your Morning Drive. I am your host with the most, Logan Lewis, back at you from the fireworks studio in Marietta, Georgia. It's good to be with you. It's good to have you here. Before we dive in, do me a favor, hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode on whatever listening platform you're on, whether it's YouTube, Apple, Spotify. If you're one of the one or two people that listen on Podbean or whatever it's called, hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode when they come to you every single Wednesday. Be sure to also share this with one person in your life that needs a new show, some humor, some inspiration, some motivation, anything in between to start their day, a new show to throw in their ears. You know, every once in a while you go through and you binge all your podcasts that you've been slacking on, and then you're just stuck with nothing. And then you just got to go back and listen to the same playlist that you've listened to for the last 10 years. No further. Your Morning Drive, subscribe to it, send it to a friend. We appreciate it. For more updates and behind the scenes fun, follow along on social media. Everything is at Your Morning Drive, and that's LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. My guest today is a Cobb County native and a UNG graduate, has served as a CBRN officer in the U.S. Army before transitioning to program management roles at Texas A&M Law and TCU's School of Medicine. Returning to Georgia in 2019, he completed a Wounded Warrior Fellowship and now serves as a field representative for U.S. Congressman Barry Loudermilk. Active in community leadership, he is the 2025 president of the Marietta Business Association, a board member of multiple organizations, and a graduate of the Honorary Commanders and Leadership Cobb programs. Please welcome my new friend, Chase Sanger.
All right.
What is going on, my guy?
Thanks for having me on, Logan.
Thanks for coming, dude. I appreciate. Thanks for all the back and forth that we've done to get this thing scheduled. But I appreciate your consistency, because often I feel that I'm annoying when I'm just like, hey, when can we do this? When can we do this? Or when can we reschedule? I'm the king of following up. People often criticize me for this. And sometimes I feel I'm like, I could maybe follow up a little less. But all in all, thanks for matching my energy and being game to reschedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you hadn't been that way, I mean, you wouldn't have a guest every single week on this podcast. So, you know, props to you for being consistent and following up. So,
well, I appreciate it. I think it's a good, sure. I mean,
good strategy.
If I wasn't as annoying or consistent, we might not be here. But
very true.
That's quite all right. So Chase, I mean, this is the first time we're meeting, man. So, I mean, tell me about yourself. I mean, I, like many people, when you first walked up, I was shocked, not shocked. That's maybe dramatic, but I was just surprised. So brain fart. I'll get to what I was alluding to there in a second, but tell me about yourself, man. I mean, where are you from? Born and raised? Where are siblings, parents? Kind of give me the little backstory.
Yeah. So, Cobb County, you know, grew up in Cobb, went to Dominion Christian High School out in West Cobb, played varsity golf and tennis there. And I mean, it was a really small school, and I think it still is now. I can't say because I haven't been on campus since I graduated, but there were 48 in my graduating class.
Wow.
So I think that classifies as very small.
I'd say so. That's like the everybody knows everybody situation.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody cheats on somebody, everybody knows it.
Yeah, word travels fast on any kind of gossip or anything going on, but it was good. I mean, my class sizes were super small. I mean, like 13 to 15 people. So I felt like that was a really good learning environment. So, you know, graduated from there and went to University of North Georgia up in Dahlonega, and enrolled in the Corps Cadets my first year. And it's really what drew me there was the Corps Cadets, the military program, because I knew I wanted to go active duty with the Army after I graduated. And there's 6 senior military colleges in the country. North Georgia is one of them. And North Georgia is the only one that only does Army ROTC. The other ones, it's kind of unique. The other ones have, you know, like Air Force, Army, Navy, you know, so you do a myriad of different ones. But, you know, what drew me to North Georgia is actually a program called National Leadership Challenge Weekend that I went to my junior year of high school. And it's just like a immersion in the cadet life up there. And they take you out to Camp Merrill, it's really cool to be located like right down the road from North Georgia, That's the mountain phase of the U.S. Army Ranger School. So we got to go out there and like go on their rappelling tower, and they've got a 60-foot rock face you get to rappel down to, and just do a lot of cool things out there during that weekend program, and get to, marched around by the cadets and stuff. So when I got done with that weekend, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to go to this place. And, another thing that kind of attracted me to North Georgia as compared to some of the other military colleges, they were wearing actual, current military uniforms. It wasn't like some of the schools where they're wearing like Civil War era wool uniforms, which I won't name names, but what schools I'm probably talking about.
I don't know what schools you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Like, Virginia Military Institute, the Citadel.
Sure.
They've got their traditions, but North Georgia, I think, has done a really good job of mirroring as close as possible to like what the active duty military is going to be like. And you're not just locked away for 4 years with only other people that are going to the military. You've got civilians on campus and civilians you're in classes with. So you still get the real college experience while also getting fully immersed in the military life and things like that. So
Sure. Yeah, that's really interesting, man. I mean, it's cool that did you have parents that served or family that served in the military? That seems like you were bitten by that bug.
Yeah.
You were pretty dead set on that for a while, yeah?
Yeah, it's something since I was like a kid, I guess, that I've been interested in. But yes, my stepdad, he's actually still in the Army Reserve now, and he's a lieutenant colonel about to retire in about a year. And then like my granddad was in the Army during World War II, and then got into the Air Force when they created that and retired out of there. My great grandfather was in the Army during World War I, like going all the way back to like Civil War and then Revolution. Like I've got ancestors that have been officers in the military.
Oh, that's crazy.
So yeah,
so it would be wrong if you didn't do it.
Yeah,
you don't want to be the first.
Yeah, I'd be like, dude, do I really want to buck tradition? But no, like growing up, I spent a lot of time like after like preschool, I would go to my granddad's house in Marietta and get the one that was in the Air Force and the Army, and like we would just be watching John Wayne war movies constantly. I mean, he would stuff that I probably shouldn't have been watching when I was that old, but
maybe not.
We're sitting there watching all these movies and stuff, and I don't know, just like kind of romanticize the military life, but also hearing, some of his stories from, after World War II when they were stationed in Europe, and just like all the travel they got to do and the things they got to see. So it, definitely inspired me to want to follow in his footsteps. So.
Yeah, that's interesting about it, romanticizing kind of I don't want to say like romanticizing war, because there's not really many ways to romanticize war, but like I had a similar thing. I mean, when I was in middle school and high school is when Call of Duty was like really big. And I guess it's still big, but like when it was in its prime, in my opinion, the gamer nerds out there will hopefully agree with me. But back when it was in its prime, I mean, that's all anybody did. Everybody played. So, I mean, in a way, like at a young age, I was exposed to some things maybe not as realistic as others, but still like the art of war and like what war was like, or what it is like, or what it could be like. And I'd always been, and that kind of triggered for me like a fascination almost with the military. There was a good period of time where I thought I was going to possibly enlist and go into the military. I mean, I took Air Force ROTC when I was in high school. So I guess it was junior ROTC, but still, I was still interested enough to every Thursday wear that uniform to school and, explore the history and just live that lifestyle. But, I don't know where it fell off. But for a while there, me and my brother were both fascinated with the military, and just, we had never had any family members that served. The only family member to my knowledge that's ever served is one of my uncles, and he served in like Afghanistan for.
I am so excited that we are entering year 2 of the support from the fireworks community team. I am so excited to have them hosting us today. They're a creative co-working space focused on supporting the local community and uplifting creative entrepreneurs. Get a free day pass. When you book with them, you have to use code DRIVE, or if you go to see them in person to visit their beautiful space and meet their awesome staff, tell them Logan from Your Morning Drive sent you, and you'll get a free day pass to try the space yourself. Fireworks Co-working in Marietta, Georgia.
I think 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. But other than that, we had no exposure to the military.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting.
It is, yeah. Yeah, Call of Duty. I mean, I love Call of Duty. I still do. I still play it.
Yeah, I still do.
So we are.
Not as much as I
There's at least two of us that still play Call of Duty.
Yeah, at least two people are making them all that money.
Yeah.
I'm not buying all the skins though. That's not me.
No,
I
like
don't know who's
all
doing that.
the in-game purchases where you like get the special weapons and stuff. Like I'm not.
Yeah, no one's.
I'm not going to waste money on all this stuff that's not real. That I'm never.
Right. It's never gonna bring. It's never gonna bring me any value. If anything, it just looks cool when you get killed by somebody that's got that skin.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, that's cool, and that's where it stops for me.
Yeah.
If I have a really cool skin and I kill some 10-year-old, he's like, whoa, that's cool. I'm gonna go take my dad's credit card and or beg my parents for this skin. I mean, my brother went through a phase on Fortnite where he was just like, I want all of these skins. And some of them are cool, but now they're like doing Sabrina Carpenter and like,
oh man,
like Oprah pretty soon is probably going to have a skin in Fortnite. But, that's just the world we live in now.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you ever well, first of all, I can't believe it's taken me however long we've been recording to say this, but thank you for your service and what you did for the country and for all of us. It doesn't go unnoticed for people like me who ultimately never decided to go into the military. I hate to say it, but I'm comfortable saying that I'm too much of a coward to do it, to put my life on the line like that. So for people who actually go and do that, thank you.
Absolutely. I enjoyed my time. I would probably still be on active duty now doing it, but I ended up getting hurt on a parachute jump. So that's why I walk with, the cane and everything. But yeah, so that kind of, derailed what I thought was going to be a 20+ year career. And, it took about 3 years from the time of the accident for like all the symptoms and stuff to kind of appear. Until the Army was finally like, well, you can't do XYZ things we need you to do to be able to deploy. And it was also during a big drawdown in service, so they were already trying to cut people anyway.
What year was this?
So this was like 2015 was when this process started, and then 2016 is when I got medically retired.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I was in the middle of the big drawdown. They were cutting out an entire brigade from like every division in the Army at the time. I mean, a lot of those people were probably going to get out anyway, but they cut out a lot of the headquarters structure so that, they could restructure things. But, I wasn't really bitter about it at the time. I was just like, okay, now what's the next thing? Like, what am I going to do next?
Right.
So it just forced me to like pivot a lot earlier than I planned on, because I was like, well, I'm going to do this at least 20 years and then retire. And then we'll see what happens. I'll be like 40 something. But so my last stop, I was at Fort Hood out in Texas. It's in a town called Killeen, which is about an hour north of Austin. And so I started looking at jobs like federal stuff in Washington, stuff back home in Atlanta, stuff out there in Texas. And I was like, well, I've got a top secret security clearance, which is going to make it pretty marketable on the civilian side, because otherwise somebody's going to have to pay for that whole investigation and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it would open up a lot of doors, but I mean, everything just kind of becoming a no, like in all these places I kept looking. And then this one opportunity came up with Texas A&M's law school, which Texas A&M had just acquired the law school from a private university about a year before I was getting out. And so they were like in this massive like build up phase, because they were like, we want to be a top 25 law school. So they took this totally unranked private school and were like, we're just going to hire the best faculty, bring in a bunch of staff, open all these new programs. So it was a really good time to be getting on board there, because they were just like, we were going to spend money like, like in Jurassic Park, where he's like, we spared no expense. That's what I
love
felt
that
like.
line.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Like, we spared no expense. Well, that's what it felt like there, because they were just like, oh yeah, we need to hire this guy, hire that guy. And I mean, it was crazy. But to be in like a startup environment like that, and what they brought me on board to do was open a global programs office. So at North Georgia, I was a political science major. So I, loved politics, international relations, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, they didn't really have many details on what the job was going to entail, because they didn't really know. I got hired by the dean for global programs, and it was just her and me for this office that they were standing up. And I mean, she had a long career in international affairs. She was a member of Council on Foreign Relations and knew people all over the world. So she was busy like going around, like rekindling relationships with all these other universities and businesses all over the world. And then basically I was there to just figure out from College Station, where main campus is, like, how do we, do this the right way, like to fall into the A&M guidelines of international travel for like professors and students, and like how do we set up these different visa applications and all this kind of stuff. So it was like figuring out the logistics and operations, basically, which is what I've been doing in the military, was operations and logistics. So I was like, okay, this is actually a really good fit for my skill set. So yeah, that was really cool, a really cool opportunity to do that. And then I did that for like 2 years, and I got it to a point where it was just kind of like coasting.
Your morning drive is also present to us by Good Days Canned Cocktails. Good Days are a classic cocktail brand created in a convenient, ready-to-drink canned format for any occasion, whether it's a pool day, a boat day, a beach day, a graduation, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, anything in between. Good Days are there for you. Good Days are ahead when they are in your cooler, your fridge, your anything in between. Good Days has your back. If you want to be one of the first to try their drink, you can do so by visiting drinkgooddays.com/pages/find-us to find a store near you selling their drink. Of course, you must be 21 years of age to consume and purchase.
Like, I figured out how to do all this stuff and pretty much written like a operations procedure book. And it was, I'm kind of getting bored now, honestly, because this could like run itself on autopilot. Like, I could just literally hand this book to somebody and then they could run it, from there. So I started looking at other things that were going on. And, another like startup, I guess, was Texas Christian, had just like brand new medical school had just been created. And it was a partnership with Texas Christian and University of North Texas Health Science Center. And it was in downtown Fort Worth, where I was living at the time. So I was like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. So I went over there. I was there for like 6 months. And before I had even gone over for that job, I had applied for this Wounded Warrior Fellowship program. And I was like, I'll apply for it. It was when I was still looking to change roles and whatever. Didn't really expect anything out of it, because it was one of those USA Jobs things where, hundreds of people apply. Most of them never hear back, this kind of thing. So I'm, probably 4.5 months into this thing at TCU, and then got an email saying, hey, like, we'd like to interview you for this Wounded Warrior Fellowship. I was like, well, okay. So I did a phone interview with the district director for Congressman Loudermilk. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is my home congressional district. When I left, for college, it was Phil Gingrey who was in office. Didn't really know anything about Congressman Loudermilk, but, I did some research on him and saw that he was an Air Force vet. He served in the state house, state senate. I was like, this seems like a really solid guy, aligned politically, with like his ideology and mine. And so I did the interview with the district director, and then his scheduler emailed me the next day. He was like, hey, the congressman wants to talk to you on the phone. So then I did a phone interview with him. And then later that afternoon, their district director calls me back. He's like, hey, we'd like to offer you the job. How soon can you be here? So I was like, wow, okay. Well, I probably need to give like 2 weeks notice to my current job. And then I also have a house that I need to probably, get ready to sell. At the time I had my wife and son out there. I was like, give me like 4 weeks and I can be there 4 weeks. So,
and they were cool with it?
They were like, yeah, that's fine.
Wow.
So, and it really was. It was 4 weeks almost to the day from when we had that phone call until I was showing up starting day one. So,
wow.
So
knowing myself, that sounds horrible. From the aspect of like, hey, you know what else is horrible is me unscrewing the damn mic, and there's no way to screw it back on comfortably without unplugging it, and we're not doing that. So holding it the rest of the time. So enjoy your stand, sir.
Yeah, I will.
But uncomfortable because I'm such I guess for lack of a better way of saying it, I'm very like with like crunches like that, like I tend to overthink like a lot. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta sell this house. I gotta, get all my stuff packed up. I gotta, all the punchlines. And then you have a family involved as well. So it's not just you. You gotta pack up your kid and your wife at the time and get them over here. So it's just like, 4 weeks doesn't sound long enough. But
no, it was quick.
Was it a crunch?
It went by quick, and it was a crunch. So, I mean, we knew the house would not be ready to sell and everybody moved back. So what happened is my parents flew out and we ended up filling up like a rental car and my car with as much stuff as we could take and my dog. And then my wife and son stayed out there. And she was going to keep, getting the house ready to go. And, we thought that would be a fairly quick process because it was like coming up on the beginning of summer. The market was doing really well for sellers at the time out there. And so we thought, okay, like that'll be a quick sell. Then they'll just be able to follow on and catch up. But it ended up being from like May until November until we could get the house sold. And we went through like 4 different contracts that 3 of them broke down at varying stages, like after the option period ended. And there was just one thing after the other. It was not that was not a fun process at all.
All while you're starting this new job and trying to pour your heart and soul into it. But in the back end, you've got these contracts that are doing what they're doing and they're failing. And it's just, oh God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So that was fun. But it finally worked out and got it sold and all that stuff. So
I wanted to ask you earlier a little bit when we were talking about kind of Call of Duty. Do you, as somebody I've always wanted to ask somebody this, but you're now my person to get to ask this. As somebody, well, you play the game, so maybe it helps and maybe don't feel as passionate about it. But with things like Call of Duty that exist and give people around the world glimpses of what war can be like or was like, if we're thinking about like World at War or like some of the games that take place in the past, I don't know what I'm trying to ask, but like, do you ever get annoyed with the world's, I guess, want to sell the general public on war, whether it's war movies or war video games? You know what I'm saying? Like, the romanticization, whatever that word is, the kind of romanticizing of war as someone who's been through it and has served in the military, has it ever struck like a chord with you of like, oh God, I hate that our society like sells people so much on war, but it's not fun. Like people lose friends, husbands, brothers, wives, people lose their lives.
Yeah.
But yet like 10-year-old kids are playing this game and they don't think anything of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, like for me, like I never served in combat. So I don't have that experience to go off of, but I think a lot of the games, I mean, some of them do a better job than others, and some of the Call of Duties even with the not split screen, but like cutscenes where they have like the cinematics or whatever, and it shows just like the monotonous tasks going on, like people sitting around camp, like just BSing around. And I feel like that's like very realistic because like there's a lot of hurry up and wait in the military, and it's a lot of downtime where you're getting ready for the next big thing. So it's like a lot of waiting, big action, and then a lot of waiting again after that. Or it's like anytime we would go to the field for a training exercise, if let's say it was like a 2-week exercise, then you'd spend like a month preparing or maybe more than that, figuring out all the tasks that you were going to do when you got out there. And then you got to make sure you got all the supplies lined up and you got to get the food lined up and how, who's going to be bringing what where. And if it's going to be somewhere you're shooting live ammo, that's another whole thing that you got to request like months out, and then you have to get people that are certified to go pick up ammunition. So it's like all this stuff has to happen. And then you get a little bit of like, the real deal time out there. But most people don't even realize all the stuff that goes on with that. Like, soldiers down at the lower level, unless they're picked up on a detail to like go do some of those things, they're just in garrison training, and then it's like, right now we got to go out to the field. But it's a lot of logistics and planning that go on before that most people probably don't realize happens. But it's a lot of moving pieces. So can be a lot of monotonous downtime.
Sure. And then fast forward to when you were talking about like you get out of the military and you're returning back to regular everyday society as a civilian, and you're like, all right, I'm going to get a job now. And you just no after no after no after no. Was there ever a piece of you that, like, not to say that you had like a high horse to be on, but was there ever a piece of you that's just like, I was in the military and I've got this clearance and, like, why can't someone hire me? Like, am I not good enough? Even though I served the country for the last X amount of years. And, was there ever a piece of like,
So
that?
I know. I mean, I never really got to that stage. I think just because I was applying to so many things, within, like a 2-month period. And so, I mean, a lot of the stuff, like I didn't even hear back for like 4 or 5 months, especially the federal stuff, because, they've got like a big application window, then that'll close. And then they've got to like sift through the applications and weed out the people that don't even meet the requirements. So then it's like, okay, well, that takes, forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was kind of funny because even for like 2 years after I got out, I was still getting notices on jobs that I had applied for. It was like, oh, we regret to inform you were not selected. I'm like, well, no kidding. Like, I mean, even if I was, I'm not taking it now. Like,
Right.
I'm already 2 jobs down the line.
Right.
So yeah, that was kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think the transition, like for me, I got lucky because I mean, like I said, within 2 months of applying, and I'd found a job and I was able to go right into it when I got off active duty and when my terminal leave ended. So there was no like gap in making money basically. But I feel like for some people, I mean, there is a gap, because they'll be like, well, the same thing, like, oh, got this clearance, I've got all the skills and all this stuff, but they don't do a good job of like translating that into what the civilian employers are looking for.
Sure.
And I feel like that, I mean, the Army tried to fix that as I was getting out, and they had this program you had to go through, transition assistance program, which for me, I felt like it was pretty useless because, at least on the officer side, because I mean, to be an officer, I mean, you had to go to college. So you already did all that stuff. I mean, you can do basic finance stuff, how to write a budget.
Sure.
And like a lot of it was built in there. It was a good program if you were a junior enlisted soldier straight out of high school, went in the military. I mean, you wouldn't have had a lot of the stuff that class was trying to teach you. So I think it was good, but it wasn't they tried to do a one size fits all program, and it didn't really speak to like everybody trying to get out. So I think they've revamped now. I think it's a lot better. And there's a lot of private organizations now that are there to help veterans as they're transitioning to give me all you did in the military, and I'll help you translate that into what these marketable skills are that people are actually looking for. So I think it's a lot better now than it was.
Sure. When so you get the job with the congressman, and what year is that you get that job?
2019.
Okay, 2019. So you move back here in 2019-ish.
Yep.
And you start working for him and his team. What then? What happened next?
Yeah. So they were like, we're going to use you as a field representative, basically, within the Wounded Warrior Fellowship program. Basically, I mean, the way that program works, at any given time, there's about 100 Wounded Warrior Fellows. They changed the name now. It's called like Green and Gold Congressional Aid Program, something like that. But usually the way the aids are used is in the district office. They'll be like the Veterans Affairs liaison and like the liaison with the different veterans organizations like American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars. And they'll also be like the caseworker folks, the constituent services people that are helping out people that are having issues with the VA or with Social Security and things like that. But, with Barry's team, they were like, well, we already have an entire team of constituent services people, but we don't need you to do that. We want to use you out in the field and have you like out at events on the congressman's behalf, like out networking. And it was like the people that were running the program in DC were just like, couldn't wrap their heads around it. They were like, well, we've never done this before. And then Congressman was just like, well, you told me I could do whatever I wanted to do, and this is what we're going to do. So it was a little bit of friction, I think, during the first couple of months, because I was turning in expense reports for stuff. And they were like, why are you like charging all this stuff? Like, why do you have all this mileage? And I'm like, well, because they're telling me to drive from Bartow to Cherokee to Cobb and, Pickens County. I mean, so it was just like an adjustment period, I think, for everybody. But it worked out well, I think. And they had me just going out, building relationships with like all the chambers of commerce, the business associations, the local and state level elected people.
Sure.
And, at first I was like, I was going to all these events, and I was like, well, when does the actual like work start? Like when is that? Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in an office.
Right.
They're like, no, like this is the work.
You're doing the job already.
Yeah. Like going to these different things, like this is the work. Like you just consistently go to these groups and these people, build the relationships, and then, keep an ear out and basically let them know what the congressman's working on in Washington, like what kind of legislation we're trying to get passed. And then also find out like what issues people are having that federally that we could help with, like what things, where is something that we could fix a regulation that's like maybe hurting an industry. There's just anything that the federal government could actually help out with and maybe be a little more efficient. So yeah, I mean, it took a while to like really grasp like what they wanted me to do, and then just get in a groove with it. But then, I mean, people did start to like, it was more than just like, hey, good to see you again, Bill. They'd be like, hey, I've got this problem with such and such. Like, can you guys help me with that? And I mean, a lot of times it would be something we couldn't help with. But because of all the relationships they'd had me build, to be like, no, that's not federal. We can't help, but the county can. And here's the person you need to talk to. I'll connect you on an email with them. And so then I started to really see the value of what the field staff can do for a representative, just with using those relationships to help the people that live in our district and make sure that they're getting what they need. So
yeah, I was wondering as you were talking kind of early on, like talking about what you actually do as a field rep, because I was going to ask, what's a field rep do? And now I know you're basically networking on behalf of the person you're representing. And so I was going to ask, how is that from a performance standpoint? How are you measured in that kind of a role? I mean, it's almost like, it's kind of like doing business development work for a company. It's like, how are you really measured? Because you are, I mean, or is it one of those where the congressman's like, oh, or somebody within his organization sees like, oh, well, Chase has been in 5 different pictures of 5 different networking events this week. Sounds like he's doing what he's supposed to, or he's at least going to the things. Sounds like he's actually doing his job. Or is it, I mean, do you get measured?
Yeah. I mean, we do performance reviews, and I write weekly,
You white weekly?
I white weekly. I write a weekly report on like everything that I do in the community, and like if I have a one-on-one meeting with somebody, if I go to an event, and so like that helps them see, okay, this is like what he's been doing. But also, I mean, it's like kind of reputation based too, because all these people know each other, so that I'm interacting with. So word will get back to my boss eventually, if I'm doing a good job and like representing him well and doing things or not. But I mean, one thing, I mean, people that I always hear from the congressman and, the district director, like, whenever we run into people, they always say, well, we see Chase everywhere. He's like out doing, this and that. So, I mean,
so they're just like, all right, good.
Yeah. So it's like, keep doing what you're doing, I guess. So, I mean, it's great. Like we have a really good team. Everybody's got their own little thing that they do. And there's one other guy that's out in the field, like doing what I do. And we just divide and conquer, because I mean, it's a big district now. With the last round of redistricting, we gained all of Gordon County. So like Calhoun way up there. Then we've got all of Pickens, all of Bartow, and then half of Cherokee and almost half of Cobb.
So you're still doing this as well?
Yep.
Like is this full-time job? Is this your full-time job?
It is. Yep.
Wow. Awesome.
Yep. So that's it could be a lot. I mean, there's a lot of territory to cover with 2 people, and then our district director covers some things as well. But yeah, it's a lot of events. A lot of
shaking hands, a lot of kissing babies.
Yeah.
Maybe less kissing babies, but a lot of shaking hands.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know what it is like, and obviously you do too with Marietta Business Association, what it's like to network like on behalf of like a business, or like people coming out representing like a small business or their business that they own. Yep. But I'm wondering, like, what's it like to network on behalf of a political candidate? Like, are people less like just from your experience, are they less likely to talk to you if they're just like, oh, you're wearing that guy's hat and I vote the other way, so screw you, and slams door in your face? Or do you find that like it really just depends on where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a little bit of that, especially when I'm first meeting somebody and I'm like, hey, I'm Chase Singer, I work for Congressman Loudermilk. And then it'll either be like, oh, Barry, I love Barry. Or I'll be like, oh, Barry, it's like, so, but what I do is really nonpartisan, because like we're here to help all the constituents, whether they voted for us or not. if they live in our district, then they've got access to the services we provide, and we can intervene on their behalf, with congressional inquiries. So a lot of it is just education to people on like what we actually do that they've already paid for with their taxes that they just don't know that we can help with.
Sure.
Because a lot of times I feel like people have an issue with the government and they're like, well, what am I going to do? It's a huge U.S. government.
Right.
Versus me, one little guy who says that you're overcharging me with my taxes, but what can I do about it? So it's just like telling people like, no, you have a voice and we're here to help you. And so it's just it takes a little education. And I mean, people that I know for a fact voted the other way that don't like me or my politics, maybe they like me personally, but they don't like my politics. But after they've seen me around for a while and see what we're doing, like they realize, they really are, it's not that they're out here campaigning. They're, he's actually trying to help everybody with issues with the government. So,
yeah, I mean, I feel like people can easily pinpoint that. Like, it's almost like when you go to a networking event as a business owner and the first thing you're doing when you walk into the room is like handing out your business cards and this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do, rather than like, hey, I'm Logan. This is, I've lived here for however, going at it from a salesy perspective is not going to get you many relationships or sales for that matter. So like walking into a situation and saying like, hey, I don't care who you voted for, how you view X, Y, Z. I represent someone and an organization that just wants to help. And regardless of who you are, your status or what have you, we're here to help. And if I don't have the answer for you, I'm going to get you somebody that has the answer, or at least try to. Is there ever a situation where you can't, I don't want to say you can't help, but like the odds of this person's problem getting solved, you're just like, oh man, I'll do what I can, but God, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Every once in a while, there are definitely those situations. Some of the more comedic ones, I guess. I mean, it's not funny for the people involved, but they're like, "Hey, my cousin is in federal prison, and can the congressman get him out?" Like,
you're like, yeah, people can they?
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's stupid.
No, that's the other part where my job is crucial because it's educating people on what we actually do.
Right.
Because they have this idea in their mind from like TV or maybe high school civics class that they don't, they vaguely remember, and they think they know what Congress does. We're like, no, that's really not at all what we do. But yeah, I mean, I've had several, I would say probably, it's probably upwards of 10 at least different people that have wanted help getting somebody out of jail. Like, could you write him like a letter of good conduct or something? I'm like, if the congressman doesn't personally know this person, he's not going to write a letter.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's
and even then,
you need a lawyer, not a congressman.
No offense to the congressman, but I mean, if you're the warden of this prison and you get a letter from the congressman that's just like, I really like, Jimmy, he's a really good guy, but the warden's like, but Jimmy killed a family of 4.
Yeah,
we're not going to let Jimmy go.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to lock him up longer for the fact that you wrote this letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. But I absolutely could see people doing that because, people are people.
I mean, maybe some congressmen will do that, but
maybe.
It's just not something that we've done. So.
Yeah. What do you ever consider or think, I mean, with you having this job now for a few years, for almost 7, 8 years-ish?
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming.
Damn near 10, I guess, coming up in a few years. Have you, as you've been kind of navigating working in that industry or that, for an organization like that, is running for office ever something that you've considered? Or, I mean, you'd be silly to say, no, you haven't thought about it. Because of course, I mean, even my first day, I feel like I'd be like, oh, I wonder what it would be like if I ran for this office. Yeah. Like, have you thought about it?
It's funny because I actually did think about it when I was younger because I grew up around politics. Like my parents, when I was in a wagon, basically being dragged around on people's campaigns, like local county level stuff, like helping campaign for stuff.
Oh, that's funny.
So I've been around politics since I was a baby, pretty much. I mean, there's a picture of me as a baby, like that made the MDJ when Sheriff Hudson was running for office for the first time, like early 90s, late 80s. So yeah, I mean, when I was younger and when I was at North Georgia, I was like, oh yeah, like definitely want to run for office someday. But I think since being in this job, I have kind of done like a 180 and seeing all the stuff that Congressman Loudermilk and other people like him, like at the state level, elected people, and at the county level, like commissioners and, district attorneys, stuff like that. So, all the stuff that they have to put up with as maybe not want to do anything elected. Because it just it's just different now, I think, because, used to like families were kind of off limits, like you could attack the candidate all day, attack their principles or values, whatever the issues, but, you don't mess with the family. But now that's like, completely anything goes. And, people's families get dragged into campaigns and it's just really nasty. It's
Modern politics is nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, I go back and I watch. I've always been a history guy, always been a politics guy myself. My parents always. I was so stubborn growing up. My dad always was like, "You're going to be a politician because you love to argue. Even if you're wrong, you love to argue." I've kind of backed away from that a little bit as I've gotten older, but I still find I'm passionate about things, and I always thought that was going to be a path that I was going to go down. But I mean,
yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy being on this side of it and, working for the elected official, without it being the one that's like up there getting darts thrown at them all day.
Yeah. Oh, I remember I was going to go with that sentence. Sorry. I tend to go back and especially through like election seasons, I'll go back and watch like old presidential debates and like all the comments are the same of like, oh my God, can you believe how civilized they were? Yada, yada, yada. And then you watch like a modern day debate and it's true. I mean, regardless of how you feel about the candidates, it's vicious.
Yep.
Like it's vicious. Like it is two dogs, running at each other. And then the chain is unwinding. And then they, it gets to the point where they're face to face, but the chain is holding them back. It's vicious, man. But you go back and you watch like even like debates with like I think a really good example of the campaign that did this was McCain and Obama. Like there were a couple times that both sides, like someone at their rallies would be like, oh, they're terrorists, they're pigs. And either or would be like, nope, he's a good family man. He's a good person. I just disagree with how he wants to run the country. But like today, bro, that's not happening.
No.
Regardless of how you feel about either or, I mean, it's not happening.
No.
They try to. It always look like the beginning of the debates, they always look at each other. But like by the end, it's like they're ripping each other apart. It's horrible.
I mean, honestly, I think the media is a lot to blame for it too.
For sure.
Because it's like, what is going to get the most sensationalized headline or what's going to draw the most attention?
Yeah.
So it's like, what can we get the craziest people we possibly can from both sides on camera talking about stuff?
Sure.
And then our ratings are going to go skyrocket.
Sure.
It's like,
sure.
It's great. Yeah.
It's like when you see like, in my opinion, we don't have to dive too deep into politics, but like watching the vice presidential debate was very refreshing because they both, sure, there was some digs here and there, but they both argued pretty fairly not at each other's families or reputations or whatever. It was pretty much policy. Well, ish. But I was like, that's funny. I didn't leave this debate thinking that either one of them were going to murder the other. So I don't know if I would survive that. Like if I were to like run for, I don't know if I'd ever get to the point where I ran for the president or if anyone would ever support me, but I don't know if I'd be able to survive that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's brutal.
Yeah,
I said at the beginning, I wouldn't serve the military because I was a coward. But like, dude, if you attack my family, like I'm going to want to take the gloves off and attack you. Yeah. So I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it takes a special person to.
I'm taking all this out.
To realize.
I'm taking this out.
Yeah.
I don't want people to. Yeah, maybe I won't say anything bad.
I mean, I
this is the closest I've ridden that politics line, but that's all right.
Well, I think it takes a special person to want to run knowing what they're going to get into because you know what you're going to get into.
Yeah, sure.
After seeing all this stuff in the news cycles, you know what it's going to be like. And then knowing that there is no private life and public life now. It's like just one,
sure.
The one thing. There is the, expectation of privacy is like gone.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you get spotted out in public somewhere, you're trying to eat dinner with your family, somebody's gonna recognize you like, oh yeah, you, and then it turns into a whole thing. So it's like,
yeah, they're like, oh my God, Chase gets blue cheese instead of ranch. What a psychopath!
Yeah,
he should not run for office because of that.
Yep. Then you get blue cheese thrown at you everywhere, and it's just the whole thing.
At the opposing parties' rallies, they got a bottle of ranch, a mascot, just a guy in a ranch costume, just
yeah. So I think there's a lot of people that probably would otherwise run for office that would be good candidates and would, be fair and govern well and all that stuff. But they're like, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put myself or my family through that. And I can't say that I blame them.
No. So where did, through this journey of yours with working for the congressman, where did the Marietta Business Association come into play?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting how it worked out. But I mean, since the nature of the job is to be everywhere and be engaged, I mean, NBA is one of the places where I got very engaged. And then in 2021, they asked me to be on the board. So I was like, okay, like as long as they're okay with it, my boss is okay with it.
And was the board seat, like, was it any particular seat where they were just like, we had a slot, we wanted to fill it, or were you a particular person?
Yeah, so they brought me on as the government and community relations director. I was like, okay, this would be perfect. That's
what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like what I'm doing. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun, just like getting to get on the board. And that was the first board that I got onto of any organization. So just seeing how that works, how the board works, how it functions, all the behind the scenes stuff that, when you just show up to these events, you don't think about, like somebody had to plan this, somebody had to get the caterer, somebody had to check the registrations, make sure we have enough tables, get the speaker lined up, get the agenda, the program, all these different things that I got to kind of see the behind the scenes of how that was done. And then, it was, it was like mid 2023, I guess, that summer when the guy that was going to be president next, sat down with me and he said, I want you to be my president elect next year in 2024, which means you would be president in 2025. And it kind of caught me off guard, honestly, because I didn't think, like, okay, I mean, there's plenty of other qualified people to be president of this thing. Like, I'm still fairly new. I've only been on the board for 2 years.
Sure.
But I was like, if you really think I could do it, see what my boss thinks. And they were totally behind it. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So then I got to spend a year with him, with Sean Rayborn, who was president last year, and just shadowing him basically and seeing what all he did, to get things moving. And then, January 1st, I came in office.
And how's that been so far? I mean, being Mr. President of the association.
Yeah. I mean, it's flying by. I mean, I tell you, I can't believe we're almost done with April. But I've got a great board. I've got 15 board members, and everybody just kind of has their own little thing that they're responsible for. And, we meet as a board once a month before, about a week before a monthly luncheon usually. And everybody just kind of reports in on what they've been doing. We've got a programs director who, makes sure everything about the luncheons is ready to go with the speaker, caterer, program, that kind of thing. We've got another guy that all he does is plan our business after hours events for the month and, gets all that. So, I mean, it makes my job a lot easier because everybody else is really, taking a piece of the pie. And I'm just the one that's kind of making sure everything is on track and making sure we're all where we need to be. So it's going great. I've got a great team and I'm having a really good time with it.
So how long can you serve? As president?
Well, it's a 1-year term.
Okay, 1-year term.
Yeah, 1-year term. So
you can't be the president next year?
No, not unless we change the bylaws, which it might be happening.
You think so?
We might be doing that.
Oh,
by the time this airs, we may have done that. Actually.
Really?
Yeah, we've already been talking about it. And so I met with the guy who's president-elect right now, and because he was like, well, I would actually prefer that because then that gives me more time to get ready for my term as president. So I was like, well, and just thinking about it, I've talked to several past presidents, and they pretty much have all said it wasn't really enough time because, you spent all this time preparing, then you're in the office, but then about 6 months in, like the president-elect for the next year is building their board out, and you really, by the time you get really cooking with grease, I mean, you're winding down. You got like 2 months left. So it's like we build all this preparation stuff into something that's, short-lived kind of. So if you do a 2-year term, then that gives you a lot more time to like really get your goals accomplished.
Then you get a real good 1.5-ish of being the president.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, we'll see what happens.
So, I mean, is that I don't want to pry into your business or anything, but is that volunteer based completely?
It is. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
We get paid $0
But
on the board.
but at the same time, you're in a weird way, you're doing your job
Yeah.
at the same time as doing this job, really. I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't arguably, I mean, maybe you have, but you arguably wouldn't have gotten this role if it hadn't been for your role with the congressman. So it's like you basically are being paid in a weird way, but you're not
Yeah.
being paid by the Marietta Business Association. You're
Right.
paid by the
Yeah.
congressman to do congressman related things. And one of them just so happens that you are the president of this business association.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, that's all on track. I mean, I probably wouldn't have been asked to be on the board if I hadn't been in the role that I was in and been able to kind of bridge those things that they needed. They saw a gap with building relationships with the government, the city, county, state, federal, with the association. So that, I mean, it made sense. And then, yeah, I mean, as far as exposure for like the congressional office goes, I mean, you know, it says everywhere, it says Congressman Barry Loudermilk, who I work for. So, I mean, it's good exposure, I think, for us on that side of it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's really cool. Is there ever like any competition? I'm just like thinking about like you and the other field guy for Barry. And it's like, whoa, Chase is like, you know, president of the Marietta Business Association. Like, is there ever like friendly competition between you guys where he's just like, dang it, Chase is the president of this huge business association?
No, I mean, we haven't openly had any, you know, like friendly competition,
banter.
but I mean, so he's been there a lot less time than I have.
Okay.
But you know, he's already become an ambassador with the Cherokee Chamber of Commerce.
That's
and
awesome.
He's an ambassador with Pickens Chamber of Commerce too. So I mean, he's getting his positions and stuff. He's on a couple of boards now too, I think. So, and there, I mean, there's definitely not any expectation to like do what I've done and
sure,
you know, become president of an association or be on the board for like 8 different nonprofits. Yeah, I mean, it just happened that way. And, you know, just because I'm out everywhere, I mean, I got asked to be on a couple of boards, you know, with these different groups. And they're like, hey, we'd like to have you on board. So, I mean, it's opened up a lot of really good opportunities and just, you know, to give back, really, and, you know, volunteer with some of these different organizations that are doing a lot of stuff here in Colorado.
Yeah,
So.
That's awesome. I had no idea. Maybe I should have paid attention more, but I had no idea that LGE was a huge sponsor of you guys. I worked for LGE for several years before my current role. I just left LGE back in October. So I worked there for several years. So I know in some of these pictures, I know Tim Henderson and Ashley Rowe, everybody else in all of these pictures with you guys. That's so funny. I'm looking at your website right now and I just randomly clicked a picture and it just so happened to be this picture that's got Tim and Parker, their social media guy, and, you know, a handful of other people from LGE. So that's really funny. Small world there. But yeah, I worked for LGE for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say like Associated Credit Union, LGE, Credit Union of Georgia, like all the major credit unions are the highest level of members for MBA and several of the other associations. And they sponsor a lot of our events. I know for LGE, they sponsor our public safety table every month at the lunch. So they fill the table up with police officers, sheriff's deputies, EMS.
Yep.
And, you know, let those guys come for free. And, you know, we recognize and thank them. And then Credit Union of Georgia, I mean, they have an educator table every month. You know, have a teacher they recognize from Marietta City Schools. So they all have like their thing that they, you know, sponsor and support.
I'm about to also have one of your board members on the podcast in a couple of weeks as well, Mr. Rubin.
Oh, Miles.
Yeah. So that's funny. Small world there too.
Possibilities Unlimited Coaching.
Yeah, I'm about to have him. We've also been going back and forth for a while trying to schedule it. So that's funny.
You got to be careful with him though. He might try to hypnotize you during the.
Listen, I tell everybody this. I hadn't told you yet somehow. When I do invite a guest on here, I do very little research about them just so that while I'm talking to them, you know, besides making sure you're not a serial killer, I do very little research just to make sure that they're, or to make sure, of course, they're not psycho, but also just so I can be asking genuine questions when I'm sitting with you, because I don't want to do 2 hours of research on you and then just sit here like this the whole time as you're talking, like I'm not genuinely asking you questions. These Call of Duty questions, man, they're coming from the heart. But when I was doing light research on him, I was like hypnotized. Like what's going on? That sounds crazy, but
No, I mean, like what he does, he's a coach, like a mindset coach, but he'll use hypnosis to like help you get over some like mental obstacle, that's like keeping you from like reaching a goal where in your business or in your personal life. So it's really cool to like for him, like to hear what he does. So that should be a really cool chat.
yeah, I can't wait to talk to him. He came to me, I guess, because I've learned this as somebody who LGE taught me when I worked there that community is huge, and like I have been trying to build the podcast and build, kind of at the same time a marketing brand. All this time I've been doing it focused on me. But when I worked at LGE, I actually volunteered to people like Tim and the other business development people, like Natalie and some of the others, Kayla, Katie, all of those folks. I volunteered to be at the events with them a lot because I was like, oh, I like this community outreach stuff. Like, this is a lot of fun. And the second I started getting in that mindset for the podcast is when I've had some of my best episodes, my biggest guests. So it's so funny how once you switch your mindset to community, things just start happening because it's cheesy. I mean, you always hear like business owners talk like that. They're like, oh, the second I started focusing on the people around me is when the business started doing well. You hear that success story all the time, but it's true.
Yeah,
it's crazy how it's true. So LG, thank you, LG. If you see this or watch this, thanks for teaching me the community is important, because I'll stumble upon an Instagram page like Miles, and I'll be like, oh my God, Miles follows Chase. He follows this person, that person, this person. I've interviewed that person. I've interviewed her. It's like everybody knows everybody in the business world, dude. They do. Especially in Bartow County. I don't know how much I live in Bartow County. I live in Cartersville. Don't know how much you dabble with Bartow, but everybody knows everybody in Bartow.
Yeah.
It's like a little club in Bartow County.
It is. I mean, their chamber up there, it's a very tight knit group.
Yeah.
So if you're like a new guy trying to break in, I mean, it takes a little while to get warmed up to. But
I've made a couple friends though. I'm friends with the Nagels Bagels family, so I'm cool with them.
Good food.
Great food. And I'm the Southern Cove guys. I'm kind of getting in with them now. They're great guys. Some local comedian as well, and so we're all just having a good time. So I'm trying to break into the Bartow realm, and if I can at least get in where I live, then I can maybe try to break in like Cherokee and because I love Cherokee County too, and Cobb County. I mean, really all the counties. We have a great area here in Metro Atlanta. I mean, Bartow, Paulding, Cherokee, Cobb. We have a great area around.
We do. We definitely do. And I think one good thing about how tight knit the business associations and the Chamber of Commerce are, if you try to get into those groups and, you start doing a bad job or you don't treat your clients well, word is going to travel fast. And then pretty soon that person's not going to have business anymore because everybody's realized they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I think, it kind of helps keep everybody honest on it, to a point and do the right thing for the customer. So,
yeah. And it's so funny talking about because when I would get people in here, I used to think like, oh, I'm never going to interview other like marketers or other podcasters because I don't want to promote them when I'm trying to build the same thing they are. Like, I don't want my audience to go to them, all this, like, again, me. But I feel like this Metro Atlanta area embraces like the community over competition mindset.
Yeah,
which is a really good mindset to have. And now I'm just like, more the merrier. There's enough food for all of us to eat. Like, it's a really cool mindset that pretty much everybody has. I haven't, being out and about, I have a full-time job as well. So, when I do get to go to networking events on days that I work from home and such, everybody's just like, I just want to help you. Even if they do the same thing that you do and you're a direct competition to somebody, they're just like, hey, like this person, maybe wasn't able to afford me, but I know since you're just starting out, maybe they can work with you. So it's like really cool stuff like that I see around.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's something that I hear about a pretty good bit with MBA. I mean, we've got a free weekly networking event every Thursday at Third Door on Church Street.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, we get anywhere from 50 to 70 people that show up.
And it's free. People that aren't even members can come.
And anybody at all, bring your brother or sister. Anybody can come.
Wow. Okay.
And we don't restrict industries. Like some networking groups, they'll only allow like one attorney, one real estate guy. But we're like, no, like more the merrier. And you hear the stories of what you're just talking about, where, we have a lot of insurance people that deal with different carriers, but, if somebody goes to one of them and they're like, well, you're not going to save any money with me. Why don't you talk to so-and-so and see what they can do, see what they're, and they really do. I mean, they refer business, who are direct competition people, or what, you would think would be direct competition. But I think people, customers and other business people see that and they're like, well, this is actually a really good thing that they're doing this. And every week there's at least one or two good news stories about somebody that's been referred to someone else because they, it was just a better fit or a better price or whatever. So,
yeah. Well, we'll circle back to MBA when we kind of get towards the end. But I wanted to ask you about something that you told me that that you wanted to talk about, but also B, that I think is important to talk about. And that's the mental health of veterans.
Yeah.
Kind of what I was alluding to earlier when you get back from, serving our country and, doing the highest job, in my opinion, that there is for your country. Whether you see combat or not, you still went and enlisted and served time protecting our country one way or the other. A lot of these people, they get back home and they're not treated with the same respect. And as somebody who was raised, in my opinion, right, I think that's shitty. Of course, then with people coming back home and they're not being treated fairly, or, something goes on overseas where, they have PTSD or they can't cope without XYZ.
Yeah.
A lot of people end up homeless. A lot of people end up in prison.
Yeah.
A lot of people end up just lost. And I think that sucks. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real problem. And, so the mental health aspect of it, with me, with my injury, I mean, I got a traumatic brain injury on the parachute jump and, a lot of other neurological symptoms, but, that caused just a lot of things to be like packed away in the back of my mind. Like I didn't really deal with it at the time when the accident happened, and didn't really deal with the fact that, hey, this is a major life change. This is a major shift from what I thought my life was going to be like. And I was just kind of pushed it aside and said, what's the next goal? What's the next mission? What's the next task? And, I was able to kind of keep going on that, path for a while. But it took about 3 years. And then finally I, packed away stuff for so long that it just kind of all came crashing down on me. And I pretty much had a mental breakdown. And I couldn't deal with it. And I didn't know what to do. I was just kind of at a loss. And there was a program at Shepherd Center that my mom had actually tried to get me into when I was getting out of the Army. And they were, it's a 14 to 16 week full-time, every day, Monday to Friday program. And, at the time I was like, well, I mean, I was like, I didn't serve in combat. Most of the people that are here did serve in combat, and they all have traumatic brain injuries and or PTSD. And I was like, I just think somebody else probably deserves this more than I do at the time. And then, but, fast forward to 2019, fall of 2019. And I was just like, I need help. And I really do need that, what they were trying to offer me 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago with that program. So I went through that program right at the beginning. It started in January 2020. And then we all know what happened like 3 months later. But I was 1 week away from graduation when the lockdown happened. And the Shepherd was like, well, we have to send everybody home. But luckily, like at that point, I was at the point where I was in a good spot. I was in a good place. And it was, it went virtual, like with some of the providers, and I would meet with them virtually, and that worked out for a time. But no, so it's called the Share Military Initiative, the program. And it's just fantastic. The team that they have there, where you get every kind of care that you need. They'll come in and assess you. And I mean, it's different for everybody what they need more of. Just some people need more physical therapy. Some people need more time with a psychologist. Some people need, medication management. And so for me, like one thing that I dealt with, and I think a lot of other people that are, veterans dealing with TBIs and with PTSD, is they've just been prescribed medication after medication after medication for so long, because the doctors are just like, okay, here's the symptom. Yeah, you need XYZ, pharmaceutical for it. So they got these like huge laundry lists of medications that maybe we know what some of the interactions are, maybe we don't. And it's just like, you're just drugged up basically. And it's not really trying to get to the root cause of the issue.
Sure.
And so, I mean, that when I got there, I mean, I had a bunch of medications. They were like, I met with the doctor the first time. He's like, now, why are you on this one? Why are you on that one? He's like, well, we can cut that out. We can cut this out. We can give you this that will actually help with both of these things. And so he like cut my medication list in like a third of what I was taking. And, I think with the mental health aspect, there's a lot of guys will be put on like opioids or some different things where, it causes you to become addicted to it. And then, that's just a whole nother issue. But no, I mean, the team down there at Shepherd Center, I mean, I can't thank them enough for what they did for me. Because I can guarantee I wouldn't be sitting here on this podcast with you if I hadn't gone through it. And I, wouldn't be president of NBA, but, probably wouldn't still be working for the congressman. So, it's something I'm very passionate about, and I plug that organization anytime I can. They've got an organization called Shepherd's Men who does all the fundraising for the Share Military Initiative. Because right now they get pretty much zero funding from the government or anything else like that. Like they can bill insurance for some of the stuff. So one of the aspects of it is there's no charge at all to the veteran going through the program. So, if somebody like me who comes in with TRICARE, because I'm, is medically retired, like they'll bill what they can to TRICARE, but they don't get 100% reimbursed for it.
Sure.
So it requires a lot of private dollars to make it happen with the treatment. So they're trying to expand it too, where they can have another clinical team so they can treat more people every year. Because they're kind of limited as far as capacity goes, because they can only, when you get that specialized of care and that specialized of one-to-one time with all these providers, they're very limited in what they can handle. So
yeah, it's great to hear that organizations like that exist, because all you hear about, or at least again, with the, like we talked about earlier, media kind of paints a lot of things in pictures that aren't always necessarily as accurate as they could be. But with, this is a conversation in and of itself, but like so much of the medical world is just like, my knee hurts. All right, here's this will make it be, this will make it go away. Mm-hmm. Not like, what's going to help this what can you give me to help prevent it from coming back? Instead of like, here's a temporary solution versus here's a long-term solution. And quite often those temporary solutions are ending up like kind of what you were talking about with the opioid crisis and everything. Like people get addicted to these pills and then they just go down a train and maybe they, end up lost. Maybe they end up dead. It's horrible. But it's unfortunately our reality.
Yeah, it is.
But it shouldn't be.
No, it's very true. And, I guess the statistic is 22 veterans a day commit suicide. And the number, it could be higher than that because that doesn't factor in like some alcohol related things or like DUIs, things like that, where, they were dealing with PTSD and they were drinking because they were trying to mask it. And then they got in a car and drove. But that doesn't
22 veterans a day.
22 veterans a day. That's
horrible, man. I hate that. That's bullshit.
So, we've got a huge crisis with veteran mental health, and just, I think mental health in general is that, we got a huge crisis in this country. But, one thing that kind of, that I think is a good turning point, the current secretary of the VA, Doug Collins, Georgia guy, he was a congressman here. He was in the state house and state senate, and he was lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. So he gets where the issues, he understands things really well. And he's come in with a really open mind on how to reform the VA and make it actually work for veterans, what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be huge in revamping how the VA looks at caring for veterans. So we'll see what happens.
Does it sting for like an organization like that? Like, I assume this man was appointed by our current president.
Yep.
So that just means in 4 years, that man will change. His job will change.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
So, is it one of those things that is just like, oh, this is great, but, in 4 years, this could change, or, hopefully the same party gets elected so that they continue the same values, hopefully, or else then it's just course correction. Cause I'm sure this guy gets in and day one, he's like, all right, let's take a look at what's been done the last 4 years. And then to that guy before him, and then that guy before him. And that, it's just, it's like this endless train of kind of like what you're talking about with like being a president only for 1 year. Yeah. It's like you're getting in and you're changing things, and all of those things take up half of the time you're even serving and you don't even get to the agenda that you were either elected to enact or the stuff that you just personally want to do for the organization. So,
Yeah,
I mean, is there a way to like make this, is there a way to make the VA almost its own entity? I don't want to say separate from the government, but separate so that veterans can get the constant support, not this flip-flopping that goes on. You know what I mean?
And I think that's what Doug is really trying to do, at least from the outside. It's just like structural change in how the VA does things that he's trying to fix. And I think, if you get some of those things fixed, then the next guy is not going to try to change that because it's just going to be more efficient and it's not really political. Just trying to make the organization more efficient and actually responsive. So I think, of course, if whoever the next person is, they might have their own agenda as well. But I think if he gets a lot of the structural issues fixed, then it should hopefully stay that way. So,
well, I hope that's true. I hope that's true. Where do people go to find out more about Shepherd and things that they do?
Yeah, so shepherdsmen.com. You can go to their website and find out all about what they do. They've got their big thing that they do every year is a cross country run where they do 22 miles a day with 22 pounds of body armor on, and they're raising money for the program and raise awareness. Wow. So, they'll start in Washington or New York usually, and they'll run through Arlington. It takes a while. And it's not every single one of them running for the 22 miles. They trade off. It's like a relay.
Oh God, I was about to say, people are finishing this thing looking like The Rock.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned The Rock because they actually got The Rock to come on board and be like a celebrity spokesman.
Oh, no way.
And partner up with him this year. Wow. So The Rock did awesome. He did like a voiceover spotlight for them, and they're doing some stuff with Under Armour too, raise money and stuff. So, it's definitely gaining traction. And it's kind of one of those funny like connection pieces. Congressman Loudermilk actually linked up with Shepherd's Men, like right after he first got into office. They reached out to him and said, "Hey, this is our organization. We're going to be running through Washington. Do you want to like come out and meet us? Maybe run for a little while with us?" So he actually met up with them and ran through Arlington, years ago, and then awesome. he became like this huge proponent of what they're doing. So it was just kind of like fortuitous that I ended up in his office. And, when my whole like breakdown happened, basically, I was actually there on a tour with him where he was getting an update on what was going on with the program. And I'm just like, as we're going through and talking to all these people, I'm like, wow, like I could really benefit from this, like really benefit.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, for that all to happen, that's, I believe in divine intervention. I think that was definitely a God thing that happened.
Sure.
But he still remains he's a big supporter of what they're doing, and trying to find ways to get federal funding for what they're doing, and trying to find ways where the VA can directly reimburse for services that they're providing at Shepherd Center, where with the VA you might have to wait 3, 6, 9 months when you could be seen faster and probably higher quality care with the team they have at Shepherd Center.
Sure. So Chase, there comes a point in every conversation I have where I ask my guests a collection of questions that are unlike the ones that we just talked about. They're very off topic. They're kind of first date questions. We just got to know who you are, where you came from, what you do, what you're passionate about. But we're also just now going to get to know kind of you, just everyday you.
Yep.
They could be rapid fire questions, or we could discuss if we need to. But are you ready, sir?
Let's do it.
What is your favorite movie?
Patton, for sure.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. It had to have been a movie like that. Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about the company that makes your morning drive happen every week. Are you looking to elevate your business and your brand? Hammerhead Creations is here to help. They offer top-tier marketing services, including social media management, website design, and Google page optimization, ensuring your business reaches the right audience. Whether it's a side hustle or your full-time grind, their expert team, me, is ready to help you grow. Plus, if you're into podcasting like me, Hammerhead Creations offers full support for both in-house shows and external podcast creation. From concept to production, we will help you bring your ideas to life. Visit www.hammerheadcreations.com and discover how we can take your business or your podcast or both to the next level. Hammerhead Creations, swim with the big sharks. Had to have been.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite non-military movie?
Well, let's see. Favorite non-military.
Or
Probably Inception.
good choice. What's your least favorite military movie that you're just like, you know what, that one just doesn't do it for you?
I can't really think of one specifically, but I don't know, like some of the more recent like military movies that are just like so outlandish and
Yeah.
don't really, I don't know. I can't think of one specifically, but I have like a picture in my head of like just the type of movie where
Sure.
it's like the Expendables, like the Sylvester Stallone, where they got like, all these guys that were huge actors back in the 80s. Yeah, like coming back together for. I mean, it's like, come on, this is so unrealistic.
It's such a cash grab.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, your dad's favorite action stars are all back together in one movie.
Yeah,
which they'll probably do the same thing like in 20 years from now.
Yeah, probably
for all the my generation's action stars. There's this one movie that just came out that looks really good. Actually, it's called just Warfare. Have you seen the trailer for that?
I have. That looks really good.
It looks insanely, for what I hope, realistic.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like we talked about earlier, it's like some of the Call of Duties, some of those cutscenes, you're like, some of that, like, grabbing a blade, catching it by the blade, and like throwing it across the room to hit somebody in the. It's like, I'm sure it's possible, but like, how possible? Well, I know it's a video game. We shouldn't get caught up in that. But what was your first job ever? First time you got a paycheck?
So that was actually working for my stepdad's law office, and I was like a runner and like a file clerk for him. So I would, he'd get some kind of court order he needed to file. So I'd take it to the courthouse, get them to stamp it, file it in, and I did a lot of data entry for him too. So yeah, that was my first paying job. So
good. Tomorrow or tonight, if I told you that tomorrow you would not wake up, what would you get for your last meal tonight?
Man, that'd be tough because it would either have to be. I would probably. Well, if it's my last meal, I can eat multiple things.
Yeah,
right?
whatever you want.
So that would be filet mignon for sure, and then chicken parmesan.
Okay, I like it.
And I'd eat both.
I respect it. I respect it a lot. You get to organize a music festival, and you are organizing it purely just as if nobody else buys tickets for it, and it's just dedicated solely to you. Yeah. Who are your 3 headliners? That could be alive or dead.
Oh, wow. So definitely Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, The Strokes, and Frank Sinatra.
Great lineup. There's something there for everybody.
Yeah.
Especially the Frank Sinatra. All the men and the dudes are rocking out on one side of the field. You got all their wives just gushing over Frank Sinatra. Yeah. That's how it'd be in my household. I'd be over there with the homies, and my wife would be over there with Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Man, to see him live.
Oh, yeah.
But to like, it's like you think about people who saw people like Elvis live, or even like Michael Jackson, to be like modern, and you're just like people saw them live.
Yeah, I know. I can't imagine.
Like to see Frank Sinatra live, but in the moment not know that he's Frank Sinatra. He's just Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the most...
just seeing it before he like made it big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the most like crazy big musician today is that Taylor Swift? Is that the person? I hate for that to be the answer, but she's the answer.
I think
like
so.
She's the Michael Jackson, the Elvis, the of like now. I guess she's that person. Ugh, I hate that.
We needed somebody else to come along and out.
We need somebody else on a day that you're not working, which I'm sure is few and far between because you're doing all of these events and doing all kinds of things. What's a day where you get to take care of yourself? What do you do? How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so going to the gun club and shooting for sure. I love target shooting. Do it any chance I get. So definitely would do that. Sitting on my porch smoking a cigar.
Love that.
That's how I chill and relax. That's those 2 things right there. So
I wish I could smoke cigars in here so bad. I've talked to them multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm just like, guys, come on. It'd be so cool to be able to smoke a cigar in here with like a guest. If I'm like, hey, if you like cigars, we'll smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
No dice.
No.
Maybe
yeah.
next time they're looking to expand the company, if they open up another space, we'll be like, can we get some like ventilation in the studio or something?
Feel like a especially ventilated room.
Oh yeah, that'd be so sick. I mean, Joe Rogan does it. Why can't we? Joe Rogan has no rules. He can do whatever he wants. What's something that very little people know about you?
Very little people know. Well, probably not much now because everybody, after this podcast comes out, they're going to know quite a bit about me.
Good answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's really not anything that.
Do you think people would come up to you at the MBA and be like, I didn't know you played Call of Duty?
Yeah, maybe that might be the one thing that would surprise people.
I was surprised
that I'm
when
a
you
gamer.
said it. I was like, oh, another adult that plays video games.
Yeah.
Sweet, I'm not alone.
Yeah, I mean I love, getting on Xbox. I mean, I've been a gamer my whole life, but I never really stopped. So
I agree. I dated this girl in college that was like, my husband will never be a gamer. I'm like, good luck. Because most dudes, whether they call themselves gamers or not, most dudes love video games. Like, they might not be as intense about it like some, but like, dude, when my wife is like, I'm going out, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Play video games for a couple hours.
To hop on.
Yeah. It's I mean, same thing. I've been a gamer since I was like 7 or 8. So it's just, hopefully it'll never leave me until she makes me throw them away. Even then I'll be like, yeah, okay, I'll throw them away. And then just sneak them back upstairs. What's in that trash bag? Nothing.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
What is something that no amount of money will ever get you to do?
Wow. I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, I would honestly say probably running for office myself now.
Really?
It's no amount of money can get me to do that.
No amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, I say that, somebody's going to dig this up in like 10 years. But like you said.
But then the Don's going to call you and he's going to be like, Chase, we want you to run.
Yeah, I would say, money would not be a motivator. But if it was something where it was, I would say that's probably.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, given all that you've seen and all that you've been through and such, like, I mean, I don't blame you either. Kind of similarly, what's your greatest fear?
I mean, let's say greatest fear. I would probably say like letting somebody down that, needed assistance and needed help in some way, and I just dropped the ball and couldn't make it happen or couldn't figure out what they wanted. That's like, that's the kind of thing that would like keep me up at night.
I like that. So. That's a great answer. Nobody ever says that, but it's one of those things that, man, you just hit me, dude. I hate letting people down.
Yeah.
I hate not knowing the answer to something when someone's just like, hey, can you help me with this? I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
But as I've grown older, I've learned that you don't have to have all the answers. You just help them get to the answer.
Exactly.
Kind of like we were talking about earlier with like, hey, I can't help you, but this person can. What's your email address?
Yep.
So
for sure.
I resonate with that a lot. What would the title of your memoir be?
Oh man. Well, that's I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer for that one.
Would you write a book? Do you see that being in your future or not really?
Maybe. I mean, if I did, I mean, it would be to like tell my story as far as like my, journey with like the mental health stuff.
Sure.
And to try to help somebody else maybe.
Sure.
To like skip the phase that I had to go through where it's like, no, I don't deserve that help or don't need it. And then get to a place where it's so bad that you had nowhere else to go but to help, just like maybe if I could like help somebody else not have to go through that phase, then it would be worth it, I think. So
Sure. And then lastly, Chase, what does success look like for you?
Yeah, success. I mean, it's kind of hard to quantify, right? But I think with me, it's just like, when somebody comes to me with an issue, like what we've talked about several times, just knowing or finding out how to help them fix that. And that, if I can do that, then I think that's a slam dunk. So.
Gotcha, man.
Yeah.
Well, I know we already plugged kind of, the Shepherd Center and like the shared kind of stuff, but Marietta Business Association, I mean, how can people get involved? I mean, how, you talked about events on Thursdays or once a month, kind of tell people how they can get involved with the organization if they want to.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got MariettaBusiness.org is our website. We've got all of our events on there. We got a calendar you can look at and click on all the different things. We're on Facebook, Instagram. And if you go to the website, you can actually sign up for a newsletter on the bottom, and that'll help you find out what's going on. But yeah, I mean, every week, we've got the networking event every Thursday, 3 to 4:30, third door, just off the square in Marietta. Then we've got a monthly luncheon, which is usually the fourth Monday. We're bringing a guest speaker. We've got a catered lunch and some networking opportunities. So that's so far this year. I mean, that's been hovering around 100 people at each one of those luncheons. So it's been booming. Then we also have a monthly business after hours event, which is usually the fourth Thursday. It's a little informal after work networking time where it's not really a formal program. It's just people talking, getting to know each other. And we've had really good turnout with those. And then we've got another thing that we do called First Friday. And that's, of course, on the first Friday. But it's for people that are either new to the Marietta Business Association or they're interested in joining. Like, that's where you come, and it's more of like it's a smaller room with like a 1-to-1 ratio of board member and prospective or new member. And it's like, we'll answer all the questions you have about us and like help you figure out like where to best get involved and like what your goals are. And so that event's gone really well. We've had a lot of good success with that. We just had a casino night fundraiser last week for Officer Barney with Marietta Police. He's the crisis response canine. It's like everybody's favorite dog. Everybody loves Barney. But they have about $8,000 a year that's not funded with the police department or the schools that they have to come up with private donations. So we're trying to help, bridge that gap. And then our next big event, we've got a huge networking expo at Truist Park on August 11th.
Okay.
So it's our second year doing it. Last year we did it. I mean, it was huge. So we're hoping it's going to be even bigger this year. But last year we had the World Series trophy there for pictures. We had Blooper walking around talking to people. Heavy hitters came in and did a set. The drumline guys. So it was a pretty big production. And it was businesses. We had about 70 where businesses came in, set up a table, and people walk around and they get to talk about their company, what they're doing. So we're looking forward to that in that partnership with the Braves continuing. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, it's all on the socials and all on the website. So
anything else you want to plug or promote, my friend?
No, I think that's it. Shepherd's been an NBA. So
good deal. Well, man, as I said a few times before we hit rolling, I appreciate your time. It was really cool to get to know you, get to know the president of the Marietta Business Association, that I've heard so much about just kind of out and about, but also just, the cool stuff that you've done, the things that you've been through, your journey. Thanks for being open and honest about it. It's really cool, and I hope it helps somebody that listened. Maybe someone listening is at that point where they're like, I need help and I don't know where to go. Well, now they do. So I appreciate your time and your guidance on that and those things, and just keep up the good work, man. You're doing good things out there. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. Guys, I will throw the 2 links in the description of the episode for the Share Initiative as well as the Marietta Business Association. I'll make sure that those links are in the description so that if you're interested, you can go and click and learn more and find out how to get involved and everything in between there. Like he said, I'll say it again, follow along on the socials. Everything is at Your Morning Drive. We appreciate your time listening to Chase's story today, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.